Welcome to our deep dive into the world of natural resources.
Oh, this will be fun.
Yeah, we're really going to zero in on coal and petroleum today.
Yeah.
I think it's super fascinating how much we depend on these things.
Yeah, it's really crucial to understand these resources. They're really the backbone of our modern world, but they also come with a whole lot of baggage.
For sure. And our source material actually does a really great job laying out the basics.
Yeah.
Like how we categorize these resources in the first place.
Right.
We've got inexhaustible resources like
Yeah.
sunlight and air. Thankfully, no shortage there.
Right.
But then there are the exhaustible resources.
Yeah, these are the ones that we need to be a lot more careful with.
Exactly.
Because the supply is finite.
Yeah.
We're talking about things like forests, minerals, and the big ones we're focusing on today, fossil fuels like coal and petroleum.
And it's like that analogy they use in the source material
Yeah.
where,
Oh, yeah.
you've got generations of people and they all want to enjoy these treats.
Okay.
But there's only a limited supply.
Right. If the first generation gobbles up all the treats,
Yeah.
the later generations are out of luck.
Exactly. It really highlights why we need to be thinking about sustainability,
Absolutely.
making these resources last.
That finite nature, that's something we really need to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about something like coal. I think most people would be surprised by its origin story.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard to imagine
Yeah.
that this black rock we dig up from the ground actually started as something totally different
Right.
millions of years ago.
Millions of years ago, think dense ancient forests thriving in these swampy areas, low-lying areas.
Okay.
And over time, what happens is these forests get submerged by floods,
Oh, wow.
buried under layers of soil and sediment.
So they're trapped.
And as this happens, the pressure builds, the heat builds.
Oh, wow.
And voila, you get.
It's like nature's slow cooker recipe for coal.
Exactly. It's a process called carbonization.
Okay.
Essentially, you're baking those ancient forests over millions of years into the coal we use today.
And it's really amazing how we've harnessed this, this transformed material. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
coal is a workhorse. It powers our thermal power plants, drives industries,
Right.
and it's even used for cooking in some places.
It is.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
When we process coal,
Yeah.
we also get these incredibly valuable byproducts.
Oh, absolutely. Coal has so much more to offer than meets the eye.
Like what?
Well, take coke, for example.
Okay.
It's incredibly tough material, nearly pure carbon, and it's essential for things like making steel
Wow.
and extracting metals.
Okay.
Then you've got coal tar,
Coal tar.
which, let's be honest, it's not going to win any fragrance award.
No, probably not.
But here's the twist. It's a gold mine of chemical compounds.
Really?
Yeah, over 200 substances are derived from coal tar.
Wow.
And they're used to make things we use every single day.
Like what?
Dyes, medicines, and even those mothballs that keep our clothes safe from moths.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Yeah,
Hidden potential.
truly.
Well, speaking of valuable resources with intriguing origins,
Yes.
let's dive into the world of petroleum. I mean, this is something we encounter constantly,
Every day.
every time we fill up our gas tanks.
Petroleum, or liquid gold as it's often called, is another one of those vital resources that powers our modern world.
Yeah, and it also has this fascinating backstory.
Absolutely.
But this one takes place under the sea.
It does.
So picture ancient oceans,
Okay.
teeming with tiny marine organisms.
Right.
And as they die, their remains sink to the ocean floor
Okay.
and slowly get buried under layers of sediment.
Sounds familiar, right?
Kind of like coal so far.
Yeah. But here's where things take a turn.
Okay.
So under immense pressure and heat,
Okay.
and without any air, mind you,
Oh, wow.
those organic remains undergo this incredible transformation.
Oh, wow.
They become the petroleum and natural gas that we extract today.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
It really is a reminder of the incredible power of geological processes over vast timescales.
Now, the source material had this really cool visual that I wanted to ask you about.
Okay.
It showed these oil and gas deposits
Yeah.
forming above the water layer.
Right.
Why is that?
That all comes down to density.
Okay.
Oil and gas, they're lighter than water.
Okay.
So they naturally rise and get trapped in these pockets above the water table.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's a
Oh.
key principle that geologists use to locate these valuable deposits.
That's really cool.
It is.
So we've got this raw, dark, kind of smelly petroleum trapped
Yeah.
underground.
Uh-huh.
How do we actually turn it into the useful products
Right.
that we rely on?
Well, that's where the magic of refining comes in. It's
Right.
a multi-step process
Yeah.
where we separate the various components of petroleum based on their boiling points.
And from that separation,
Yes.
we get this amazing array of products.
It-
I mean, you've got everything from LPG for our stoves and industries to petrol for our cars,
Right.
kerosene for lamps and jet fuel,
Yeah.
diesel for trucks and generators.
And we can't forget about lubricating oils for machinery.
Oh, yeah.
Paraffin wax used in candles and ointments.
All right.
And even bitumen, the essential ingredient for road surfacing.
Wow. It's really like a treasure chest
It is.
of valuable substances.
All derived from petroleum.
But here's another layer that I found super fascinating.
Okay.
Petroleum and natural gas aren't just about fuel.
Right.
They're also the building blocks for so many of the materials in our world.
You're talking about petrochemicals.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. They're
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, they are.
From detergents to synthetic fibers like polyester and nylon.
Wow.
And of course, the vast world of plastics largely derived from petroleum.
It's really mind-boggling when you think about it.
It is.
Even fertilizers, which help grow our food,
Yeah.
often rely on hydrogen that comes from natural gas. These resources are really woven into the fabric of our lives.
They are.
And speaking of natural gas,
Yes.
it's worth pointing out that it's often considered a cleaner burning fossil fuel,
Yes, much cleaner than coal.
which is important as we look for more sustainable solutions.
Absolutely.
One of the things I found most interesting about natural gas is how easy it is to transport.
It's very efficient.
Yeah, you just pipe it directly to homes and factories.
Exactly. And there are already well-established pipeline networks in places like Vadodara
Oh, wow.
and parts of Delhi.
Interesting.
Yeah, and plus just like petroleum, natural gas can be used as a raw material for chemicals and fertilizers, so it's incredibly versatile.
Wow. This has been a whirlwind tour
It has.
of coal and petroleum. We've gone from their ancient origin
Millions of years in the making.
to their diverse applications in our modern world.
It's quite a journey.
It is, but I think it's really important to circle back to something we talked about at the very beginning,
Okay.
exhaustibility.
Yes, the elephant in the room.
Yeah, these resources took millions of years to form,
Right.
and at our current rate of consumption, we're projected to deplete them within a few centuries.
It's a sobering thought.
Yeah, it is.
And it really underscores the need for conservation and responsible use, you know?
For sure.
We can't just keep going at this rate.
No, we can't.
We need to find ways to make these resources last
Exactly.
and to reduce our impact on the planet.
Yeah, and that brings us to another crucial point,
Okay.
the environmental impact.
Right. We can't forget about that.
Yeah, burning fossil fuels releases pollutants into the air. It contributes to air pollution and global warming.
It's a major contributor.
Yeah, it's like this domino effect, right?
Yeah.
We burn these fuels for energy,
Yeah.
and then it triggers this chain reaction of consequences for the environment.
Precisely.
We touched on pollution earlier,
We did.
but what are some of the specific impacts that we're actually seeing?
Well, when fossil fuels are burned, they release a whole mix of harmful gases.
Hmm.
You know, things like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide,
Okay,
nitrogen oxides,
and these gases contribute to...
a whole range of environmental problems.
Okay.
Smog, acid rain,
Yeah.
respiratory illnesses in humans,
Wow.
damage to ecosystems. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
And, you know, it's a reminder that everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
These emissions don't just disappear.
Right.
They have very real consequences for the air we breathe,
Yeah.
the water we drink, the planet as a whole.
And then, of course, there's the big one,
The elephant in the room.
climate change.
Exactly.
The link between these emissions and climate change.
Carbon dioxide, a major byproduct of burning coal, oil, and gas. It acts like a heat-trapping blanket in the atmosphere.
But wow.
And it leads to this gradual warming of the planet.
And we're already seeing the effects, right?
We are rising sea levels,
Yeah.
more frequent and intense heat waves,
Right.
changes in precipitation patterns,
Right.
disruptions to delicate ecosystems. It's all connected.
A lot to take in.
It is a complex issue with far-reaching consequences.
And the scientific consensus is clear.
Oh, absolutely.
We need to reduce our reliance on fossil fuels.
If we want to mitigate the worst effects of climate change.
So what are the alternatives?
Right.
We can't just stop using fossil fuels overnight.
No, it's not that simple. It's a gradual transition that requires a multi-pronged approach.
Okay. So what does that look like?
One key piece of the puzzle is energy efficiency.
Okay.
If we can use energy more efficiently in our homes, businesses, and transportation systems,
Yeah.
we can reduce our overall demand for fossil fuels in the first place.
That makes sense. It's about getting more out of the energy we're already using.
Exactly.
So things like better insulation in buildings,
Right.
more fuel-efficient vehicles, smarter energy grids that can distribute energy more effectively.
All of these things can make a real difference.
That's great.
And then there's the exciting world of renewable energy sources.
Oh, yeah?
Solar, wind, hydrogeothermal.
I mean, these are energy sources that are naturally replenished, and they don't produce harmful emissions.
And the technologies have advanced significantly in recent years.
Yeah, I'm seeing
They're becoming increasingly cost competitive with fossil fuels.
I'm seeing more and more solar panels popping up on rooftops, and wind farms are becoming a familiar sight in a lot of areas.
Yeah,
It's encouraging to see this shift happening,
it is.
but it feels like we need to accelerate this adoption of renewable energy sources on a much larger scale if we really want to make a dent in this problem.
You do.
So what are some of the challenges that are holding us back?
Well, there are certainly technological hurdles
Yeah.
and economic considerations to overcome.
Right.
One of the biggest challenges with renewables is their intermittency.
Intermittency.
You know, the sun doesn't always shine, the
Right.
wind doesn't always blow.
So we can't always rely on them.
Exactly. So we need to develop better ways to store the energy generated from these sources to make them more reliable and grid-friendly.
So investing in things like battery technology and other energy storage solutions,
Exactly. That's key to making renewables a more practical part of the energy mix.
that makes sense. What about the infrastructure needed to support these new energy sources?
That's another major consideration.
Yeah.
We need to build new transmission lines, upgrade existing grids to handle this influx of renewable energy. It's a massive undertaking, but
Yeah.
it's essential if we're serious about this transition to a cleaner, more sustainable energy future.
It sounds like this transition requires a significant investment
It does.
in research development and infrastructure.
It does, but it's an investment worth making.
Absolutely. But what about the role of individual actions?
Right.
I mean, what can we do on a personal level to contribute to this shift?
Individual actions absolutely play a role. It's not just about switching to cleaner energy sources.
Right.
It's about consuming less energy overall.
Oh,
We can all make more conscious choices about our energy use. Well, things like using public transportation,
okay.
biking, walking instead of driving.
Yeah. Choosing energy-efficient appliances
Right.
and simply being mindful of our energy consumption habits can make a difference.
So it's about making those thoughtful choices in our daily lives.
Exactly.
Recognizing that we all have a role to play in this transition.
We do.
But I think sometimes it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the scale of the problem. You know?
I understand.
What gives you hope that we can actually make a meaningful shift
Yeah.
towards a more sustainable future?
What gives me hope is the growing awareness and momentum around this issue. You know,
Yeah.
people are becoming more informed about the challenges we face, and they're demanding action from their leaders
Yeah.
and from businesses.
Right.
We're seeing a surge in innovation in the renewable energy sector.
That's great.
Costs are coming down,
Yeah.
making these technologies more accessible to a wider range of people.
That's fantastic.
And on a personal level, I see more and more people making conscious choices to reduce their environmental impact. You know, it's a collective effort, and it's inspiring to see so many people stepping up to the challenge.
Like a ripple effect.
Right.
Each individual action can inspire others
Yeah.
and create this wave of change.
Absolutely.
We're not just passive bystanders. We can be active participants in shaping a more sustainable future.
We can, we should.
And that brings us to another really important point.
Okay.
It's not just about individual actions.
Right.
It's about collective action.
It is.
We need governments,
Yes.
businesses,
Uh-huh.
and communities
Yeah.
all working together
All on the same page.
to create policies,
Yeah.
incentives,
Yeah.
and infrastructure that support this transition.
Absolutely. We need a systemic approach.
Okay, so what does that look like?
Well, governments play a critical role in setting ambitious targets for reducing emissions,
Okay.
investing in research and development, creating policies that incentivize the adoption of renewable energy. Right.
Businesses have a responsibility to reduce their environmental footprint,
Yeah,
to innovate and develop new technologies that support a sustainable future.
that makes sense.
And communities need to come together to create local solutions and to hold their leaders accountable.
So it's about creating a system that makes it easier for people to make sustainable choices, right?
Exactly. For example, Investing in public transportation, making cities more bike and pedestrian friendly,
Yeah.
providing incentives for people to install solar panels on their homes, things like that.
I love that.
Yeah, it's about making it easy,
Yeah. Making it accessible.
accessible, affordable,
Yeah.
and convenient.
Absolutely. And we need to make sure that this transition is just and equitable.
Yes, we can't leave anyone behind.
That's such a crucial point.
It is.
The benefits of a clean energy future should be accessible to everyone, regardless of their income,
Absolutely.
location, or background.
Everyone deserves a healthy planet. Yeah, it's about creating a future where everyone has access to clean, affordable energy, where communities are resilient to climate change, and where economic growth goes hand in hand with environmental sustainability.
That's a dream.
It is a vision worth fighting for.
It is.
And it requires us to think beyond our immediate needs to consider the well-being of future generations.
It's about recognizing that we're all connected not just to each other, but to this planet that sustains us.
It's a powerful thought.
Yes.
We have a responsibility to care for this planet,
Yeah.
to make choices that ensure that it remains habitable for generations to come.
For our children and grandchildren.
Yeah, but at the same time, this isn't about doom and gloom.
Oh.
It's about empowerment.
We have the power to make a difference.
Yeah, we do.
Every action we take, no matter how small, contributes to the future we're creating.
I love that.
It's
It's so empowering.
It is.
So as you go about your day, think about those choices, those actions that you can take to reduce your impact and support a more sustainable future.
Yeah. Make those conscious choices.
Because together we can create a world where clean, sustainable energy powers our lives and protects our planet
Yes.
for generations to come.
It's possible.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
It has.
And we can't forget about the environmental impact.
Yeah.
Burning fossil fuels releases all these pollutants into the air.
Right. It's like we said, it's this chain reaction
Yeah.
leading to air pollution and global warming.
A major contributor to both.
You did touch on pollution earlier.
We did.
But what are some of the specific impacts we're seeing?
Well, when fossil fuels are burned, they release this mix of harmful gases, like carbon dioxide,
Yeah.
sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides.
And all of that leads to...
A whole slew of problems.
Yeah,
We're
right.
talking smog, acid rain, respiratory illnesses in humans, damage to ecosystems. It's a lot.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. And, it's just a reminder that everything's connected.
Yeah.
These emissions don't just disappear. They have these real consequences for the air we breathe,
Yeah.
the water we drink, the planet as a whole.
And of course, there's the elephant in the room,
Climate change.
the link between these emissions and climate change.
Right. So carbon dioxide, which is a major byproduct of burning coal, oil, and gas,
Right.
it acts like a heat-trapping blanket in the atmosphere.
Oh, wow.
It leads to this gradual warming of the planet.
We're already seeing the effects, right?
Oh, absolutely. Rising sea levels, more frequent and intense heat waves, changes in precipitation patterns, disruptions to delicate ecosystems. It's all part of this bigger picture.
So the scientific consensus is pretty clear.
Oh, yeah.
We got to reduce our reliance on these fossil fuels.
If we want to mitigate the worst effects of climate change, we have to.
But what are the alternatives? I mean, we can't just flip a switch and stop using them.
No, you're right. It's not that simple. It's a gradual transition, and it's going to require a multi-pronged approach.
So what does that look like?
Well, one key piece is energy efficiency. If we can use energy more efficiently in our homes, our businesses, our transportation systems,
Yeah.
we can start to reduce the overall demand for fossil fuels.
Makes sense. It's about getting more bang for our buck with the energy we're using.
Exactly.
So things like better insulation in buildings, more fuel-efficient cars,
Right.
smarter energy grids to distribute energy more effectively.
These are all things that can make a real difference.
That's great. And then there's the whole world of renewable energy sources.
Oh, yeah.
Solar, wind, hydro, geothermal. I mean,
These are the energy sources of the future.
yeah, these are naturally replenished, and they don't produce those harmful emissions.
And the technology has advanced so much in recent years.
I'm seeing that.
It's really becoming cost competitive with fossil fuels.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot more solar panels on rooftops. Wind farms are becoming a pretty familiar sight. It's encouraging to see this shift happening,
It is.
but it feels like we need to move faster.
We need to accelerate this adoption of renewable energy sources on a much larger scale if we want to really tackle this problem.
What's holding us back?
Well, there are definitely technological
Right.
hurdles,
Yeah.
economic considerations.
Right.
One of the biggest challenges with renewables is their intermittency.
Intermittency.
You know, the sun isn't always shining, the wind isn't always blowing.
So they're not always reliable.
Exactly. So we need to find better ways to store the energy they generate, to make them more reliable and grid-friendly.
So investing in things like battery technology and
Um,
other energy storage solutions.
Absolutely. That's key to making renewables a more practical part of the energy mix.
Okay, what about the infrastructure to support these new energy sources?
That's another big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
We need to build new transmission lines, upgrade our existing grids to handle this influx of renewable energy.
Sounds like a pretty massive undertaking.
It is a massive undertaking, but it's essential if we're serious about this transition to a cleaner, more sustainable energy future.
So this transition requires a significant investment
It does.
in research development infrastructure.
But it's an investment worth making.
But what about individual actions? I mean, what can we do on a personal level to be a part of this?
Well, individual actions are important too.
Okay.
It's not just about switching to those cleaner energy sources.
Right.
It's about consuming less energy overall.
Okay.
We can all make more conscious choices about our energy use,
Like what?
like using public transportation, biking, walking instead of driving, choosing energy-efficient appliances, and just being more mindful of our consumption habits.
So it's about making those conscious choices in our everyday lives,
Absolutely.
recognizing we all have a role to play in this.
We do.
But I think sometimes it's easy to feel overwhelmed by how big this problem is.
I understand that.
What gives you hope that we can actually make a difference?
You know what gives me hope is seeing the growing awareness and momentum around this issue.
Yeah.
People are becoming more informed about the challenges we face. They're demanding action from their leaders, from businesses.
Right.
We're seeing so much innovation in the renewable energy sector.
That's great.
Costs are coming down, which makes these technologies more accessible.
That's fantastic.
And personally, I see more and more people making those conscious choices to reduce their environmental impact.
Yeah.
It's a collective effort, and it's inspiring to see so many people stepping up.
Like that ripple effect we talked about.
Exactly.
Each action can inspire others.
And create that wave of change.
We're not just bystanders. We can be active participants.
We can, and we should be.
And that brings us to another important point. It's not just about individual actions.
Right.
It's also about collective action.
It is.
We need governments, businesses, and communities all working together
We need everyone on board.
to create those policies, those incentives, and the infrastructure to make this happen.
We need a systemic approach.
So what did it look like?
Well, governments play a huge role in setting ambitious targets for reducing emissions. Investing in research and development and creating policies that incentivize adopting renewable energy.
Right, so they're kind of setting the stage.
Exactly. And businesses, they have a responsibility to reduce their environmental footprint, to innovate and develop new technologies that support a sustainable future.
So everyone's got skin in the game.
They do. And communities, they need to come together to find those local solutions and to hold their leaders accountable.
So it's about creating a system that makes it easier for people to make those sustainable choices.
Exactly. For example, investing in public transportation, making cities more bike and pedestrian friendly, providing incentives for solar panels, things like that.
Making it easy, making it accessible.
Accessible, affordable, and convenient.
And we got to make sure this transition is just and equitable.
Absolutely. We can't leave anyone behind.
That's so important.
It is, everyone deserves a healthy planet.
Yeah. We want to create a future where everyone has access to clean, affordable energy, where communities are resilient to climate change, where economic growth goes hand in hand with environmental sustainability.
That's the goal.
It's a vision worth fighting for,
It is.
and it requires us to think long-term, to consider future generations.
It's about recognizing that we're all connected not just to each other, but to this planet that sustains us.
It's a powerful thought.
It is.
We have a responsibility to take care of this planet,
For ourselves and for future generations.
to make sure it's habitable for years to come.
For our children and our grandchildren.
But this isn't about doom and gloom.
No, not at all.
This is about empowerment.
It is about recognizing that we have the power to make a difference.
Every choice we make, every action we take contributes to the future we're creating.
It all adds up.
That's so empowering.
It is.
So as you go about your day, think about the choices you're making, the actions you're taking to reduce your impact and support a more sustainable future.
Make those conscious choices.
Because together, we can create a world where clean, sustainable energy powers our lives and protects our planet.
For generations to come.
it's possible.
I believe it is.
It's really inspiring to hear about all the positive changes that are happening
Yeah.
and to realize that we actually have the power to shape a more sustainable future.
We do.
But I think one of the biggest hurdles is that shift in mindset you mentioned,
Right.
moving away from that fossil fuel default.
It's true. We've been so reliant on them for so long
Yeah.
that we almost forget they're even there, you know?
Right. It's like they're invisible.
We flip a switch, the lights come on, we fill up our gas tanks, and we just keep going.
We don't think about where that energy is coming from.
Exactly.
And that's why I think education is so important.
Absolutely.
The more we understand about where our energy comes from,
Yeah.
the more we see the connections between our choices and the impact they have.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
When we understand that bigger picture, how our energy choices and consumption patterns are directly linked to the health of the planet,
Yeah.
that's what empowers us to take action.
And those individual actions can really add up, right?
They do.
It's like that ripple effect we were talking about
Every choice we make can inspire others.
and contribute to that wave of change.
It's not just about individual actions, though.
Right.
It's also about that collective effort.
Yeah.
Governments, businesses, communities all working together.
Yeah, to create a system
Right?
that makes those sustainable choices easier.
It's about building a world where those positive choices are the default.
Yeah, not the exception.
Exactly.
So investing in public transportation,
Uh-huh.
making cities more walkable, bike-friendly, encouraging those renewable energy technologies.
It's about creating a system that supports and incentivizes sustainability.
And as we make that transition, we have to make sure it's a just transition.
Absolutely one that benefits everyone,
Yeah, no one left behind.
regardless of their background or income.
So the goal is to create a future where everyone has access to clean, affordable energy,
Right.
where communities are resilient to climate change,
Mm-hmm.
and where economic growth is aligned with environmental sustainability.
That's the vision we should all be striving for.
Yeah, it's a vision worth fighting for.
It is.
It requires us to think long-term
Yeah.
and to consider the well-being of those future generations
It's about recognizing that we're all connected
to each other
to each other and to the planet.
and to the planet that sustains us.
That's a powerful realization,
It is.
and it should guide our actions.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'm really struck by the fact that this isn't just a conversation about energy or resources.
Right?
This is about our relationship with the planet,
It is.
and we have a responsibility to care for it,
We do.
to make choices that ensure it remains habitable for generations to come.
That's the legacy we should be striving to leave.
And what's so empowering is that we have the capacity to do that.
We do.
Every choice we make, every action we take, no matter how small, it all contributes to shaping that future.
It all adds up.
So as you go about your day, think about those choices.
Yeah.
Think about the actions you can take to reduce your impact
Those conscious choices.
and support a more sustainable future.
Because together we can make a difference.
Together, we can create a world where clean, sustainable energy powers our lives and protects our planet.
For generations to come.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.